Hello and welcome into the SorareData Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Today, talking about lineup projections. There's so much more than lineup projections that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to warn everyone that I'm going to talk a lot today. And that sounds weird because that's the point of this show. But I think I was going to say I'm going to rant, but I'm not like ranting, but it's just there are things that I'm going to explain and talk about that are going to take a while. So I may not be like totally, my hair looks weird, totally locked on the chat here. But we don't do anything without acknowledging the chat. So thank you to everybody for coming here live. If you're catching up, thank you for doing that as well. Ricky Lomas, when SorareData lineup experts. Kev Hurd, 2 hours early for a podium, and Rui. Hi, people. Those are the three on the podium. So congratulations, you three. So yeah, we're going to talk about lineup projections today. It's obviously as a result, like it's a hot topic today as a result of Play Sharper no longer offering lineup projections for games that are covered by Sorare. I think that's the case. I don't really look at them for Ultimate Champions, or I don't know if they do them for any others. But that's kind of what everybody's talking about today. And the result of that, it sparked some ideas in my head that I want to talk about, that I think we all need to kind of get on the same, well, not necessarily we have to get on the same page, but I think there's a level of understanding of kind of what goes on in all of this that maybe we all know, but we just haven't thought about. And so today's conversation is going to be kind of acknowledging certain things about how Sorare works and doing your own research and just a bunch of things like that. So Rui says, I think there should be a team of 4 to 5 experts of each team to predict the starting 11 of each team. Toby, what's up? Jorge. So Rui, we'll get to that because we'll get to it. Oh, what is going on? My hair looks, sorry. It's like a classic audio podcast day. Somebody commented on the way I looked last Friday, and now I'm just starting to get self-conscious about it. Anyway, let's see. Jorge, what about the news? Yes, so that's the news that we're going to talk about. Major NFT, what's up? Tuggy, thanks for coming in. Mike Baston, here, but not here, but maybe we'll be back soon. Thank you for that. Tom Brimson, haven't predicted in a while. That's lineup predictions. But when I did, I was very grateful for the prizes given out. Helped kickstart my Sorare experience when I was starting out. Maybe I'll start again in the next Euro season. So Tom is talking about the SorareData lineup projections. Don't worry, we'll talk about those too. Because you do get prizes for being successful in that game. And so we'll get into that. Tom said the only stars I've ever won have come from SorareData projections, which is fine. Peter, what's up? It's now actually showing on YouTube now, but Peter is going to join me on a SorareData show next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Europe, 6 p.m. UK. That's on Wednesday. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, but we were just talking about Peter too much without having him come on. So now he's just going to come on. JVic, when prediction experts on SorareData, we'll get into that. Philly Dilly, Laird, should be a nice laid back Friday SorareData show, or always enjoy those checks internet. Yeah, we'll see. Surface to Air Missile, what's up? Good morning to you. Hello, Raul. Henry, hello. Surfula, SorareData versus Play Sharper, dirty laundry ready to be aired. No, there's no dirty laundry between those two. So Joel, what do you got here? 2 a.m. in Australia, still on caffeine cool down following high-depth lineup research due to Play Sharper drama. That's wild, 2 a.m. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate that. Rascal Misaki, what's up? Alex Wilson, gone are the days of spoon-fed predictions via Play Sharper. Fantastic news. That's not an opinion that I feel like a lot of people are saying. We'll get into that. Scosmo, thanks for coming in. Always appreciate you there. Ricardo, hello. Jack P, what's up? David Alves, let's go, my DNP fellow. No DNPs here. Sora Info, hello. Blue Tomatoes, it's Wilson. Charlie Dunbar, glad you at SorareData has addressed this, as I know they were technically a competitor of SorareData's. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that. Krychek, what's up? Mark Alele, good to see you. Soren for the big winner, SorareData, and so much. But nobody's winning with this. Like, I'll be honest about that. Surfy, I was told a couple weeks ago that avoiding DNPs was the real skill of the game. Now everyone's up in arms that they will have to demonstrate that skill themselves. Oh, Surf, I knew you were going to bring that up. Bob TB, what's up? Parrot Press, thanks for coming in. Spike the ball. No, there's no spiking. Get out of here. Hell yeah, Aaron Borland. Go Knicks. Let's go. The Knicks have made me so happy this year. It's really wild. Anyway, Jordan, what's up? Alex Coombs' first reward for Sorare last month. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this Peter show too, Surfy. That should be good. Paco, timing for this show is great, but trying to gain advantage that way. I'm not gaining anything. The whole point of this show is to talk about like what people are talking about and literally play sharper is what everybody's talking about today, or line of projections or whatever. Ben Cook, what's up? Colonel Dickweed, thanks for coming in. Martin Heil, don't worry how you look because of the comment. You don't have to look at it that way, is what I always say if someone has a comment. Oh yeah, no, I was just kidding. I don't actually care. I'm literally like a random guy on the internet talking about a fantasy football game that has NFTs in it. So the way I look is probably really not something that anybody needs to worry themselves with. Ben Cook, people with reliable info can be winning from this. That's fair. Mark says there's people who are winning, the people selling popcorn. No. That's right. OG Ananobi the GOAT. Shout out to the Gator guy who said OG was terrible a few months ago. Malky, what's up? Kev Hurd, this is a great line. I've not used Play Sharper for ages. I'm quite capable of picking my own DNPs. Thank you very much. So yeah, let's get into it. Thank you to everybody for coming. Before I get into line of projections specifically, so let me give you a little preview of where I think we're going. I would like to talk about line of projections, how SorareData fits into that, how Play Sharper fit into that, how third-party platforms fit in the Sorare ecosystem, and how businesses work. So before I get into that, a little bit about me. So my educational background included like business courses and degrees. Apparently people are telling me Rivals 2.0 is out. I'm not going to touch on that today. So I have a minor in general business when I was doing my undergraduate work at university, and I have a master's degree in sports business. And so I understand how a lot of businesses work, and I understand how businesses in the sports world work and sort of the things that they have to deal with that are maybe different from other industries. Additionally, I've worked for some gigantic companies, like billion-dollar companies that would have no idea that I ever worked for them. And I've also worked for very small companies, specifically in the fantasy sports space, specifically at RotoWire and SorareData. And RotoWire and SorareData are very different companies because RotoWire is much bigger. But RotoWire is actually a company that relies on a lot of part-time contributors providing information to the site that they may be an expert on. And if that sounds familiar, then it should. I also was I believe, the first full-time employee of SorareData, which is a significantly smaller company than all the ones I have worked for. And I bring that up because for the things that I'm going to talk about soon, I just want to be clear. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And it's very clear from tons of comments that I've seen today about everything that's going on, that there are a lot of people who have no idea what they're talking about. And that's not directed at any one person. It's actually directed at a lot of people. But we need to talk through these things so that we're better educated at this, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about just how things work, both in Sorare and just in the world. And so we got to talk about it. So this Rivals 2.0 is on Twitter or something. Again, I'm not going to go into that. So anyway, let's start with the lineup projections. So one of the roles that I had when I was at RotoWire, and I was there, I forget what my official title was, but it included soccer. It wasn't football. But basically I was the head of all of the soccer stuff there, football. And that included lineup projections. And so I spent hours every week just on lineup projections for mostly the top 5 leagues in Europe. We also did MLS, Liga MX, Champions League. I don't think we ever did Europa. It sucks trying to project lineups. Yeah, full stop. Some people have fun with it, but ultimately, the difficulty that you have with lineup projections is we don't know anything. We're just looking at what has happened previously, if it was successful, if the players that were successful in that last situation are still fit, if there are any suspensions, whatever it is. And there's a lot to get through when it comes to lineup projections. And ultimately, when it comes to the Sorare deadline, a lot of projections are done before managers know who's going to play. And Circula kind of mentioned that in this whole like avoiding DNPs is a skill, that just that point, that there are matches, like today is Friday, if you're catching us live, but today is Friday, and there are games that are going on Monday. And there could be a training session today. There could be a training session on Saturday. There could be a light one on Sunday. And all of those play into who plays on Monday. And so predicting what's going to happen or predicting how a manager is going to decide something is difficult. And so you will never find anybody who gets everything right. Sure, you could get one lineup, 11 of 11, way to go, you got it right. Nobody's going to get it right all the time. That also doesn't even include the fact that we do projections, let's say today, and somebody gets hurt in training on Saturday. We didn't know, but you're wrong. So like now you're wrong. And so the problem with projections is that as much as you think you're an expert, you watch all the press conferences, you read all the info, you're clicking through the training photos on the team website, we're still just guessing. They're educated guesses, sure, but it's still just guessing. And so one of the weird things about lineup projections, whether they were on SorareData or on Play Sharper, is a lot of people use them as their research and aren't willing to admit that that's their research. And I asked this question on Twitter months ago, but it was basically like, is looking at a lineup, at a projected lineup, no matter where it is, you could be a local newspaper for the team or just your friend who's a season ticket holder and what they think, is looking at a projected lineup, doing your own research. And it was astonishing how many people said no, because what else is there to do? You look at who played last week, and theoretically it was, okay, should it be that team again? And if you look at that team and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this guy actually was filling in from somebody 2 games ago. Well, why was that guy out? Was he hurt? Was it a suspension? Did the new guy play well enough? And like now it starts to snowball of like how many things you have to consider for one lineup, let alone however many people do. Like I used to do the entire Prem, all of La Liga, and it was too much. And so, yeah, Alex says, go spy on the training sessions all week. Yeah, the problem, but again, today's Friday, today's deadline day, spying on tomorrow's training session doesn't help you at all. So Parapress says, unless you're the coach, you don't know. Not sure why everyone gets so pissed about it and how they don't understand that. It's not that people don't understand it. And they get pissed because like they get a DNP. And I'm absolutely not getting into the DNP solution conversation right now. No chance. But so lineup projecting is hard. And I think the idea of having someone being an expert is interesting because, again, you could know everything there is to know, and that might not be enough information to be right. And so there are a lot of things that come up in SorareData projections that are like obviously wrong. And I've talked about it on this show. Like there are guys who are projected to start and everyone's like, well, obviously everyone knows they're suspended. And my response to this is always like, if you know somebody is out, then go in and submit that. Because there is kind of this like herd mentality to lineup projections everywhere though, not just on SorareData. Like if you look at one person's lineup projection or you look at the last game and you're like, all right, like that's where you start. You don't, every game isn't like a fresh 11. You're just like you're not given a blank team sheet and be like, fill this out and be able to do that without looking at what has happened previously. It's absurd. And so you go to the last game. Okay, here are 11 guys that I know have played. And you can go in and check each one. Oh, how often do they play and all this stuff. And so there's this like complaint that I've heard about SorareData lineup projections that people are like, yeah, they just take the last game, put that in, and that's it. But like, honestly, that's what any expert would do to start. I'm not saying they don't adjust, but that's how you start. And if you see somebody who's played 8 games in a row, like the idea is like, yeah, you're going to put that player in. And so the pushback is like, well, an expert would know that like the other guy who usually plays is back in training. And so he might actually start. And it's like, well, he might, but he might not. And so are you willing to say, yes, he's going to start? And then we're like, no, well, he's 50-50, 60-40, 60% he'll start. And then if he doesn't start, it's like, well, he was only 60%. And if he does start, you're like, nailed it. It's like that doesn't work either. Like that's not, is that even helpful? Server said, I respect you, Laird, for what you're trying to do here, but sometimes you just have to pivot. Let's talk about Rivals 2.0. I'm not doing that. Anyway. So hold on one second. Info says, what's crazy is that someone who doesn't have a player's card can predict on SorareData. How about a filter to eliminate those who don't have cards of the players they predict? I mean, you can do that. I don't think we even give points for projecting players without cards, but why would you not want to know who's starting? Scosmo said, lineup projections are just a quick way to consolidate news from people closer to the information than me so that I can research further and make my own decisions. Yeah. Vita says, I don't have a single player of the club I support. Does this disqualify me? It's like, I'm not saying that SorareData lineup projections are perfect. Like we know they're not. Like we talk about it a lot and we talk about ways that we can improve it. I also think that a lot of the negative feelings about SorareData lineup projections are wildly wrong. That's not fair. I shouldn't say an opinion is wrong. Statements I've seen people make about SorareData lineup projections are wildly wrong. And I think one of the reasons that they get a bad rap is that I think we're trying to deliver what most people want, which is lineup projections as early as possible. And to do that, sometimes they look wrong early on. And so I think the issue that we have is that people are like, we want them right away. Like as soon as the game week ends, for the next game week, everyone's like, where are the lineup projections? And it's like, well, it's too early. If it's Tuesday and your game is the following Monday, what do you want? And so you get people who are like, all right, let me put in the last line because that's probably like what could happen. Or if it's like they have a midweek game, you don't even know what happens in that game. So one of the solutions we heard was just wait. Don't actually submit, don't publicize lineup projections until like Thursday. But people want them earlier. Like more people want them earlier than that. And so that's why we have those like reliability indicators, and nobody really looks at them in any way, which is both understandable and frustrating because we're very clear on every single line of projection how confident we are in those who have made that projection. So when you see like, oh, this player is like 85% to start on SorareData, like that's not at all what that percentage means. And maybe I have to do a better job of explaining that to people. And so the percentage next to every line of projection is how confident we are out of a scale of 100 that projection is right. So when it's 100% and we have that dark icon next to it with a star, like we're like, we trust in the people who've made this projection that it's going to be accurate. And those tend to happen later in the game week, Thursday and Friday. So like today, so everyone always complains about how bad the projections are on like Tuesday, Wednesday, early Thursday. And then they don't look again on Friday. And that's the problem because Friday is when they're the best. Just like when people would look on Play Sharper on Tuesday and there's no projection, and then they get to Thursday and they come up, and then Friday they're different. It's the same thing. Toby said, I use SorareData predictions to spot outliers, and then I investigate the outliers. Yeah. Sorry, let me catch up here. Dream of Oblivion said the Bundesliga has a site with high accuracy predictions that are based from press conferences. But the problem, Dream of Oblivion, with that is that sometimes the press conferences are too late. And so what do you do in that situation? Or they come in super late on Friday, and then now you're relying on everybody to go in and be like, oh, wait, let me change my lineup projections. Comrie saying do your own research is fine, but it means we need to cover less clubs in our gallery. Or just do more research. Brasco Masaki said, I was looking at a bunch of predictions a couple hours before the deadline for the K-League, and they were embarrassingly wrong and very frustrating. So honestly, my first thought is like, did you go in and put any projections? Like the ones that you saw were very wrong. Did you put in a correct one? Andy says, is Sorare going to do anything here to fill the gap? So firstly, like, why should we have to do it? Show expert projections alongside community projections. A page that shows all expert projections. Might have missed you discuss this as I joined late. No, you did not miss that. So let me dive into that, because that was one of the things I dealt with at RotoWire. It's obviously something that they dealt with at Play Sharper. And now it's something that apparently people want SorareData to do. How many people do you need to project all of the lineups in Sorare, in games that are covered by Sorare each week? And I've seen some people be like, well, having one person do an entire league is too many, so you should have one per team. So you need like 400 to 500 people. And even if you're like, oh, you can get some people to do multiple ones, let's say you need to find 250, 300 people, 200 people. Not only do you need to find 200 people willing to do this, you need to find 200 people who are good enough to be considered experts, and I'll ask them to do these for every single game week, every time their club has a game. And of those 200, how many are willing to do it for free? And if they're not willing to do it for free, how much are they willing to charge to do it? And let's say it's a minimal amount. So you now have to charge all, you're now paying all of these people to do this work. And now you're wondering, am I making that money back? And when you are a small company, throwing money at something and having it not actually benefit you financially is really difficult to do. And this is where it goes back to my experience working in small companies and understanding how companies that work in sports operate. That SorareData is not a big enough company to just take a loss on paying people to do lineup projections. And I also saw a number of people and I hate constantly going back to be like, this is what I saw on Twitter, because we all know what Twitter is like. But the number of people who were like, they should have just charged for it. And the amount of I don't want to call it anger, because it wasn't really anger, but the number of people who were upset when we started SorareData memberships that cost $10 a month, $10, euros, whatever a month, $100 a year, 100 euros a year. And they're like, that's absurd. And so quickly today are like, I would pay $5 a month for these lineup projections. The number of people who say they will pay for something and the number of people who pay for something is always way different. Way different. If enough people were willing to pay, I don't know how much PlaySharper was asking for their ad-free version, then we probably are not having this conversation. But that also shows the fact that the number of ads that were on that site and the number of people that were paying to not see those ads was not enough to pay all those contributors. And so running sites like that cost money. And sometimes they cost a lot of money. And the better you want the sites, the more expensive they are going to cost, the more money they're going to cost to keep running. SorareData, we have 15 full-time employees. You guys don't see the people that do the actual work for SorareData. You see me. I'm just here talking about it. But we have people who that's their job. And if you want something if you want SorareData to get better and better and better, you can't rely on 2 people to do that. You need more people. And it's so difficult to find 300, 200 people to do something like lineup projections and have it make sense for both sides. It's extremely difficult. And everyone's like, oh, we'll just give them SorareData memberships for a year. And it's how are you going to find the 200 people to do this? So Andy, I don't know, to answer this question, are we filling the gap or showing expert projections? So the projections that the SorareData lineup projections that we show on Fridays are generally the confidence score is basically a confidence in the people who have shown to be experts in their projections, meaning they're the ones who are correct the most often. I think it's the top 10. Vita might be able to correct me on this. And I realize I'm way behind in the chat now. But I believe it's the top 10 projectors of each team. And we go with them. So if you want the experts that are currently on SorareData, the Friday projections are it. Anything before, I'll say Thursday, but it's really Friday. Friday is when we have all the info that we'll get. And so we're already doing it. And everybody's like, well, they want to name who can I follow? And it's honestly, does that matter? Sorry, I'm going to catch up on the chat here. Sorry. Surahan said, to be fair, those icons look all pretty much the same. Maybe add some colors like red, orange, or green. It's funny because adding colors tends to be more of a problem because some people just can't see them. But let me pull this up. This was on our Medium. Here we go. just so we're all clear, because I think I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying SorareData lineup projections are perfect, but these are the three. Actually, I feel like we have another one now. Vita, don't we have another one? I guess it's an old medium. But basically, like, if you look at these, you can hover over them on SorareData, and it'll tell you how confident we are in this pick. And if it's low or moderate, then like, you know that. Anyway. I feel like so this is an interesting kind of side note to all of this. Ben says, makes me wonder if people will target certain leagues and avoid others due to information available. And Peter said, I feel like the meta has become stacking. I wonder if we'll see more people pushing into stacking now, only because it's easier to find out lineup projections and stuff. Let's see. Sorry. Now I'm like behind in the chat. So Toby said, it's our responsibility because we're the biggest site connected to Sorare. Vita, who works with me, one of the people who does the actual work, says, I'd argue community projections are expert projections. Expected, it's not self-proclaimed ones, and it's actually between 5 and 10 of them. All right, there you go. So I think so Vita's also right. Like, you find 200 people, and then what happens when your Osasuna expert goes away for a few days? Can't do them anymore. And Raul's right. You need to pay him. I am never going to be on the side of asking people to do loads of work for free. I completely agree with you, Raul. So Ben said, someone mentioned this before, but this is a great opportunity for people who are experts with good sources to create a Patreon and make a few bucks a person, which that, like, again, this is what it's coming back to is, so the best thing about the best thing about Play Sharper was that it was the way that it was all in one place. Like, I think people people have chosen to possibly follow an expert that is not as good because they're on that site with a lot of other people. That we're actually much more interested in a single place that can give us all of this instead of the best experts. Because if we really wanted the best experts, we would just do that. We'd go to all of these different Patreons and we'd pay for them. But now we're paying for all of it. So Recovery paid Play Sharper. Yeah. So Lucas said, could you not just get the guys who were on Play Sharper and then offer them free SorareData subscriptions? Would all of them do it for that? And I think this is another one. Vita says, how do you track an expert's expertise? Is it equally difficult to predict a Manchester United lineup than an Istra from Croatia or FC Seoul, which is another one. And I actually said this to somebody earlier today. Wow, I'm really behind on the chat. So I was talking to somebody that the tricky thing about Sorare is that the lineups that we really want, like the news that we want, is actually more for people who, for teams that aren't followed. So we want, like, finding a projected lineup for Manchester United is really simple. There are so many sites where you can just go and you can find all your Premier League expected lineups in one place. But Istra, how easy is that? The problem is, like, how many people really want that? And so now you have that problem. Are you paying more for the big leagues because more people want them? Or do you pay more for the smaller leagues because that's the hardest one to get information for? Do you pay them the same? How much do you pay them? And now, what's the total cost of all of that? And is that worth it to your business? Like, I would argue that SorareData is worth $10, euros, pounds per month without any projected lineup information whatsoever. So now if we're adding experts that we have to pay, are you willing to pay more? Servula said, putting someone on a pedestal as an expert ends up with the community feeling entitled to near perfection often. It also, and this is something they talked about on Make It a Double Double, it also, for some reason, gives people the confidence to blame someone else when they're wrong. Toby said, quote, they should have charged for it, unquote, is definitely written by a guy that didn't pay to subscribe for Play Sharper. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that, like, I'm not here to tell people how to spend their money. And I realize that sounds really weird from like a channel, the guy from the channel that's always like, this guy seems cheap. But people will pay for different things. And I think it's clear what people won't pay for because they feel like they should just get it for free. Once somebody gets one thing for free and then you're like, hey, can you pay for that? And they're like, why? You're like, well, it costs a lot of money to produce it. And they're just like, yeah, but I get it for free. So I'm just not going to do that. It's really hard. Jorge said, I would pay $10 for the lineups. All right. Magnus, it should be a filter that can show predictions over the last hour, day, all. Then it's easier to find the trend, to see the trend. So, Magnus, that is something we've talked about. The idea to see changes, I don't think is visible enough on SorareData, and that is something we've talked about. The problem is technically it gets difficult, where we have like tens of thousands of projections every game week. Vita, how many I don't even know how many we end up having each game week, but it's a humongous number. And it's like, how often do you run that query of like every single player? Like, what was their projected, their starting projection on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? But again, like we've talked about it, don't worry. But sometimes it's just a technical difficulty that like we can't necessarily get. So Jorge is willing to double his SorareData membership fee if we had this. All right. Yeah. What if SorareData offered expert predictions for 50% of the games for free, but those people can sell their predictions so SorareData doesn't pay them directly and SorareData can take a cut of the total revenue? That seems really complicated. It seems like people just want us, meaning SorareData, to be the projected lineup hub for 348 experts and to pay them some sort of amount each week or each month based on something, right? Major NFT said, I work in subscriptions too, and it's true what people say they will pay for and put credit card in for is a vast chasm. Yeah. Chasm. Star Fox, it'd be nice to have a consolidated place on SorareData to see notes on community projections to help justify predictions. The comments by Play Sharper experts were often a helpful springboard for further research. So I agree that like notes, community notes within projections is an interesting idea. Yeah. So Andy said, I need the name of a person I can blame for my DNPs. Blaming the community isn't as fun, which I think is totally right. So Toby said, what you could do is maybe add comment system on the games, maybe so that people can comment relevant info on the games. We could. The other difficulty is just having to monitor that stuff. Like just allowing anybody to post anything is kind of a dangerous game. You can see Twitter for that. Peter, is there any worry that projections on SorareData will get less accurate? I assume there were people trying to take advantage of the system by copying Play Sharper projections into SorareData. So it's funny you say that because like my guess is a lot of people copy projections from somewhere else. Like Bundesliga.com does expected projections. lineup projections every game week. And so it's like, were people just copying from there? And if you're somebody who did your own research and did your own projection and happened to be the same as the Play Sharper one, like, is that looks like you're just copying it. I don't know how many people actually took the time to do that, Peter, to be honest, to like specifically go one side and then the other. But also, I don't think, like, I fully believe that SorareData lineup projections are not nearly as bad as people think they are. People are taking these kind of like random, and again, part of that comes because there are just so many games, there's so many teams and so many games and so many players you have to project. And what's even a good accuracy percentage? And also, most people really only care about starters, right? Like, you want to know if your player is starting or not. So if you see somebody who's like on the bench, he's 100% to be on the bench versus 100% to be out, that's not, like, realistically, that's what, it doesn't matter if they're 100% bench or 100% out. You want to know who's playing. And so I think that the percentage that SorareData community members get right is way higher than people expect. And it's not, I'm not going to call them one-offs because they're not, but like the ones that are like egregiously wrong, the actual number of those inaccuracies is so much smaller, but people love to focus on and be like, this is why this doesn't work, when you're ignoring the thousands that are perfectly fine. Dream Oblivion said probably a lot of people from Play Sharper would do it for free. So, but again, what happens when one of them doesn't do it, or somebody just disappears, or one week they're sick and they're like, what happens? You have to find more people to do it, and you have to somebody has to manage all that to make sure that they're all getting done. And then somebody really should be going in and being like, how accurate is this? And then what do you do when your Serie B expert is actually terrible? And you're like, look, you keep getting them wrong. And so now, like, let's call it me. So now every week, am I checking projections and having to talk to 38 of the 250 people? And then if they're not any good, now I have to go find another one. Like, you start to realize, like, it's way more work than just, oh, hey, yeah, let's just get a bunch of people to do projections. Vita, we can just do ChatGPT. They'll do the 250 contracts. Let's see. Sorry, I'm still catching up on the chat. I'm like 9 minutes back, so apologies. So Dream Oblivion said the good thing was being able to ask the experts why players were missing. So I agree with that. Mike said, do you know how many subscribers total you have to SorareData off the top of your head? I don't know. Glenn said, would any of you do hours of work for $100 per year? I like the idea of the free membership, but it's really nothing compared to the time put in. So, Glenn, there are people who would do that. Absolutely. And there are people who do lineup projections every week for free because they're just like, I love this. I just love doing this. And this is what I'm just going to keep doing it. The problem is there are just not enough of them. And really, should they not be compensated for that? SorareInfo says, I don't see what's stopping SorareData from creating a feature to track the projections of a particular expert. Whoever has the most correct projections wins, and the predictions are public for all paying subscribers. Like, we do this now. We already do that. The difference, I guess, is that we don't show like a specific person's projections. But like, if you go, let me see if I can find this. All right, I'm going to show everyone this. But I guess this is really where the question comes in. Like, this whole, like, do we know who's good? The answer is, of course we know who's good, meaning those who do projections. So if you just go to game week projected lineups and then view leaderboard on yours, I'll just I didn't do any for this week. So I'll just go back to April. But like you can go and see like who the best Premier League projector is. It was Carlitos C, 86.8%. Is that good? Looks like 86. Bundesliga was 87%. Now, again, these are projections that are made sometimes days ahead of time of the lineups. Like I think people also kind of assume that experts are right like 95% of the time, when like 85 and above is probably pretty good and 90 is really good. Sorry. Yeah, I appreciate that everyone is saying that people would do this for free, or yeah. So Surfila kind of makes this point. So people are like, we want to follow specific people. And what we're trying to say is that we take the best, and that's what we show on Friday. We basically show a compilation of the best people who have projected on SorareData, and that's who we use. So instead of using the one person who does projections, we take the 10 best, and that's what we use. And shouldn't that be better? If 10 experts are saying something, that feels like it has more weight than just one. So Surface is also a fan of the comment system, which is, yeah, that's fair. Vitas, all right, I'm going to take the next few minutes to catch up. Vitas said with the chat, said the issue is that it's a cascade thing. We update pick scores and odds and projections, et cetera, every 10 minutes. We're looking at a solution to manage some sort of history, but it's challenging. And you're right, Peter. There's just a lot of data out there, and we process most of it. Could you add a forum to each game? Yeah. So a lot of what I'm seeing here is that people want some sort of commenting system in the projected lineups, like in the games page, which I think is fair. Peter said, so this is right, Peter. So I feel like a lot of people think it's easy to do and be profitable enough to do it. If that's the case, people have the opportunity to start their own site, and they won't because it's expensive. Like if this was easy, it would be done. Like that's the point. All of these suggestions, all you need to do is have some bot that like tracks Twitter and looks up all of the Harry Kane comments. And if one says injury, then it comes out. It's like, all right, well, it's thank goodness that no players ever share a surname. And then it's easy. Like none of this is easy in that respect. James said the problem with SorareData projections is if it feels like a 60-40 chance between two players and everyone takes the 60 player, it shows a very confident 100%. I like the idea of comments to help. So James, I think that's a really interesting point. But also it kind of shows the difficulty in even using 60%. Like if instead of having people show or predict if a player will start, if we were like, oh, give us a percentage of how much you think you would start. Like if you had a player and we showed 60-40, do you just not play that player? Because there's like a 40% chance they don't start? Because 60% means there's more of a chance they start. And then the idea is those 10 people think he's more likely to start. But I think that's a very good point, James. Thank you for sharing that. Sora Cumry said, I really miss Sorare Club, which filtered news articles by your players. The problem is it did, but it also showed you so much that really doesn't work. Vita said, we can work on a comment thing. I just want to be extra clear that this would stay somewhat anonymous. I truly hate the bullying I see on Twitter play sharper against experts when they're wrong. I think that's, I didn't even think about that. Are you saying, Vita, are you saying the experts should be anonymous? Toby said, I get that monitoring comments is a pain, but at least doable. Like, it's not, like, doable is really like, who's doing it and how much are they doing? And you have to remember that we have hundreds of games every game week. And so somebody is going in and looking at the comments of hundreds of games every week. And how often do you do it? I agree with this, Vita, that people use a lot of sources. Tough Turn said, I'm guessing there are quite a few experts who just love SorareData as myself and would do predictions for their teams for free to better the product for the community. So it's funny that you say that, because like, you can do that now. Like, you can put in your submissions every week, and if you become so much better than everyone else, like, your projections will help and will be better for the community. Philly Dilly said, if SorareData is worried about policing chats when selecting someone is not starting, you could just have a handful of icons to show why. Bench, suspension, international, short-term injury, long-term injury. So it's funny you say that, because I actually think this is helpful. Like, we've talked about this as well internally, that instead of having out, there's different, injured, suspended, or whatever. But Philly Dilly, you can make the argument that now makes it easier to copy. And apparently copying other people's stuff is not what we want people to do, even if it happens to be right. Yeah. Comrie said the SorareData predictions leaderboard is mainly 80 to 85% accuracy. Yeah, I mean, like, the top 10 almost never dips below 85 in a lot of leagues. I'm trying to look at it now here. Here we go. Like the Jupiler Pro League. Sorry, I thought. So this is the Jupiler Pro League from April. So the highest one was 87.64%. And like, to get under 85, like, there's a lot of people who are over 85, 28. Like, would you rather accumulation of people, of 28 people who are 85% or better, or do you want one person? Philly Dilly said, I do feel like SorareData has gotten better over the last couple of months, and it's important to recheck late in the week. So it's gotten better because we've picked out the experts. We've taken, forgetting people who like think that they're good, we've specifically taken those who have shown to be good, and that's what we should use our reliability on. Let's see. How much will SorareData pay for the post of lineup projection manager? Yeah. Rob, Vita might have discussed this already, but like, the emphasis on the top projectors is already in place. But again, we do it later in the week. And people who are the best at their lineup projections are those who submit them later in the week. Like, that's the other point that people kind of miss, is that we have a lot of people who are very good at projections who wait for the news before they put anything in. So looking at lineup projections on Tuesday and Wednesday, and sometimes even Thursday, is just too early. Okay, sorry. Still catching up on the chat. Glenn said, definitely a lot of people out there who would just do it for free. We've seen that on Twitter today, but it's finding replacements and someone for every team. Like you said, memberships are not enough. So memberships are enough for some people. And I'm not saying like that that can't work for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And now you're back to the point of like, you can't find enough people to do this stuff. And so like, that's almost the point of this competition that we have on SorareData, that the better you are, like, we're trying to reward those people. And like, I understand wanting to follow like one person, but like, what happens when they just don't do it one week? Or they're wrong. And now you're like, I'm blaming that guy. Mike said, so you're gradually filtering out the lesser projections during the week then? Yes. It's not even gradual, but it's like, Vita, I don't know if it's a specific point in the week, but yes, like at some point we filter out everyone except the top 10. Hatlingen said, what I like about Play Sharper is that they give percentages for every player. SorareData does this sort of too, does that too, sort of, but it's based on yes, no question of will they start or not. There's no way to indicate a doubt. So there is, but I think that the doubt comes from when it's not 100%. And PSU fans is the one who always says it to himself. Like, if he's in the lineup builder and he sees somebody is not 100%, that's when he goes and looks and sees why. And yeah, we'll see. He just said if it was easy, Opta wouldn't charge so much for this service. Yeah. And it was, yeah, exactly that. And like Opta weren't any better either. Highland said, so if it's a toss up between two goalkeepers, it tells me that I should be careful. But like, what does being careful mean? Like you either play your card or you don't. Dream of Believing said, just got my first DNP and was 100% to start. So what was the DNP? Oh my God, I'm so far behind. I'm sorry. Sad said, one really good expert on one team is better than 10 best percentage experts for the whole league, especially if there are locals projecting smaller clubs. There are a few of them on Play Sharper. So like, how do you determine what a really good expert is? Like, we could, instead of taking the top 10, we just take the top one. And also, what if they weren't a local? What if the best K-League expert is in Italy? Does that matter? Sorry. Ace Pair said, surely we're all using past history to do our future projections. Yeah, I think that's right. Surfula said, in my opinion as well, folks are missing out on a lot by not subscribing to a Patreon, such as Matsuyama's, and just relying on percentages. A service like that can help you become an expert yourself. I think you're right. But again, now we're like back to the cost thing. Like, Matsuyama's not going to do all of that work for free. And you shouldn't. It's like a ton of work. Let's see. Toby said, I couldn't even imagine owning Scandi cards without being in the Scandi Discord. Same. Let's see. Krychek said, there's something in the SorareData method that could make it better than using one specific expert. The theory of, quote, crowd wisdom, unquote, is that large crowds are collectively more intelligent than one expert. That's the idea. So like, Adam here is already doing his Burnley projections. But Adam, in the future, you would just do this. Game week, projected lineups. We'll have to go ahead to 475 because I don't think I can go back. Burnley, and then you put him in. And you're like, oh, yeah, Muric, he should start. Trafford's on the bench. And then you look, oh, this guy always plays. Yeah, I'll put him in. Simple as that. Thank you for your work, Adam. Peter said, I mean, SorareDeek was great and did a lot and his percentage, and did a lot, and his percentage right would be frequently in the 80 to 85% range when he'd share it. The community considered him good. So why should SD be any different? I'm assuming the second SD is SorareData. Were we that different? Blue Tomato said the Bundesliga press conferences are out 2 hours before the deadline. Of course, something will change after that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still. Let me actually try to catch up here. I thank you everybody for coming. If you guys could please like the video, that'd be really great. If not for the video, for the live chat, that's really just banging here. Lucas said you can't really split it either, because if those people who chose to do it for membership see others getting paid, they'd most likely also want to get paid. I mean, it just like, think of it like how you would feel if you and somebody else were doing the same work and they were like, hey, I'm getting paid for this, aren't you? And you're like, no. When you want to get paid? But again, I really don't like asking people to do a lot of work for no compensation. It's the internet has made free work really, really unhealthy for a lot of people. I think so. Peter said, if we thought Deke was graded 80 to 85%, then clearly what SorareData is doing is at the same percentage. And this is true what Vita says. People underestimate how hard 85% is. Yeah, 85% is very good. And like looking back, like that's generally, actually, Vita, have we done like a accuracy analysis recently? Like if we, like where we ended up? It's a lot of work. Kamri said, I often have no choice but to play it out. If I can choose between a 70% or a 40% starter, it helps. Yeah, so I'm guessing that like the 40% starter wouldn't show as 100% to start on SorareData, but I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong on that. Peter said, I think a lot of people just don't realize how accurate the line of projections are. Maybe on the site, there could be a more clear way of articulating it. So I think I don't disagree with you, Peter. Well, I completely agree on the first part. I think it's the ones that are incorrect are the ones that most people will focus on. Like people are always going to make a big deal about one that's wrong on a Tuesday after the game week's open for 10 minutes and two people have made a projection, and versus the ones that are actually right. Adam said, what you actually had a massive amount of on Play Sharper was random people just picking the team based on the tiny amount of information available. Yeah, like I think one of the difficulties in finding like these experts is how do you prove someone is an expert right away? Like if someone's like, yeah, I really know. Hold on, let me just go to the Game Week Center and see if I can find a non-offensive, very random team. Yeah, like if you're a Nkaraguchu expert and you're like, yeah, I'll do the projections. Like, how do we know you're any good? And then like on SorareData with the line of projection competition, like we know who's good based on who's submitted those projections. And so let me go back because I think I did some Turkish Super League, which I must say is a very, very difficult league to project. But we see here D1 N21 only ETH, which apparently won a prize somewhere else. GG's. 89% for the Turkish Super League, over 2,000 projections last month. That's insane. So people just want to know what D1 N21's projections are each week. I get it. Blue Tomato said, as Harry said today, most of the time, even the coach doesn't know who will play when you're doing the projection, which I believe he actually stole from Surfula. Maybe not, though. Stylish said, I watch and keep up with Villa religiously, and I wouldn't even be a comfortable prediction lineup 100%. Yeah. Brad said, what time are the SorareData projections filtered down to the top 10? Deadline is 7 a.m. for me, so leaving lineups until the close to deadline means getting up super early. So I think you have to just get up super early, Brad, where you're just in a really bad geographic spot for Sorare. But honestly, they can change up to the deadline. Like if news comes out at, for your time, 6:55, and a bunch of people who do lineup projections go in and change them, like it'll change on SorareData, but it's not necessarily something that you're going to see. Okay, sorry. I keep saying I'm going to catch up on the chat. And Adam said, even with the local experts, using Burnley as an example, I can only give my opinion as a Burnley fan who has a season ticket. Company gives little to no information. So what other information can I give? Yeah, no, I think that's right. So Peter said he didn't understand how the process worked until the show. Now he feels more comfortable looking at the percentages. I just assumed it was the percentage of everyone that voted. Yeah, that I think I got to do a better job of explaining that. That's literally my job. And so yeah, I think that's a misunderstanding. That people see like something's 100%, and they're like, no way this player's 100%. He's like 80% to start. There's some doubt, and we're like, there may be some doubt, but the 10 people that we think are the best at doing this think he's going to start, and so we're confident in those 10 people. James said, are experts chosen on most accurate by club or league as a whole? I think we do it on the club level as much as we can. Yeah. Vita says, then it's mostly a matter of prioritization. Do we spend more time showing our product is good or making our product even better? And sometimes I prioritize wrong. So yeah. Adam, thank you very much for your future Burnley projections. He's already gone, but he'll catch up. Yeah. Charlie said 85% is brilliant for to be honest, I think for some clubs, 85 is really good. If you got Man City right 85% of the time, I think that's really, really good. KA29 said, if Sorare pulled the plug on Play Sharper to use that money rewards in game, isn't that a great thing? Sorare didn't pull the plug on anything. Yeah. Blue tomato, excuse me. Is it an option for SorareData to show a link tree with sites who do lineup predictions as an additional resource next to the community one? I don't think that's worth our time, to be completely honest. To have to like look for all of those lineup prediction sites and like, how do you know they're good? It's just, I don't know. Talking of Turkey, Turkish Sorare doesn't release their predictions on Twitter until a few hours prior to the deadline, so they are the most accurate they can be. SorareData does the same; it just starts the info sooner. So that's kind of where it is. Yeah. Boyd said it was the same for me. I thought it was the community vote. So yeah, it is community, but like it's not. Yeah. The percentage is not like the 100% of people thought this. Andy Black, does Sorare have a responsibility to support third-party platforms? Like I have some great ideas involving birds. And the button. That's a really big question, Andy. I don't. Actually, I did want to touch on this, and it's funny Vita left for this. Now we can really chat. But there was a whole Sorare should have. This comes to back to a separate thing of like Sorare should have bought SorareData and all of this stuff, and the level of input that Sorare have on SorareData is nil. And I've seen a bunch of these like, oh, Sorare is like an investor in SorareData. Like they have nothing to do with what we do on a day-to-day basis. They can certainly make suggestions and we can say, yeah, that sounds great. Or we could tell them to F off, but like, it's just not that anyway. Yeah. So I think the difficulty that all of this, like, it's just hard. Like doing a lot of this stuff is hard. And a lot of people who are out there saying like there's a simple solution to all of this just really haven't tried to do it. And like I said, so Ricky said maybe we just need a Discord channel for every team where people can put in any team news they have. So it's really not that. Fundamentally, it's just, there you go, Mike. I haven't used that in a while. It comes down to just having it all in one place. Like that was the beauty of Play Sharper, that it was like, hey, here's one place to get all of your projections. And I think we are getting there with SorareData. We're working on something that was demoed to me earlier this week. It's not going to be ready like next week or next month. Like it's a ways away, but it's really cool. And frankly, there could be a new lineup projection solution by the time we go live with it. And that would be great for everybody. But there's some really cool stuff coming, including lineup projections that I think everyone's really going to love. And if you're somebody who was willing to pay for lineup projections and you're not a SorareData member, I think you'll become a member because of this new thing that we're going to have. Blue Tomato said, do you think we will see players from leagues where it's harder to get info drop in price? No, I don't. I think that gap already exists. That's right. Philly said, I do think SorareData needs some way to indicate if someone is a risk, even if 100%. I mean, we literally have that. It's just that the people who are very good at it aren't using it, meaning they don't think they're a risk. So like PSG Dortmund, I haven't looked in any of this, but like we have a questionable tag that you can use if you think someone's actually questionable. Halogen, how about adding the ability to do percentage predictions on SorareData and showing an average of that, as well as the ability to check a specific user's predictions, maybe even have comments on each person's prediction. So one of the reasons we like how we've set this up is that it encourages more people to participate because it's easy. You just go in, click yes, and it's gone. And then asking people to do additional things like, what's the percentage you think this player will start? Where? Like that was one of the things that I was really interested in. I was like, instead of saying this guy should start, make somebody say this guy is going to start at right back. And then it gives us an easier idea of like figuring out where everyone will start. But it's more work than people are willing to do. And we wanted to make it as easy as possible. So Rasko Masaki, you're not penalized, but you also don't benefit, if that makes sense. Like you get more points for being right if somebody starts or they're wrong. People are, sorry. Don't people get scored on what they get right? So I think if a guy is going to start but is a risk, there's no way for me to get points unless I start, select, or bench outright. So do you think you should get points for saying somebody is questionable and they start? Like that doesn't seem fair. In fact, I think we did that and enough people were just like, oh, I'll just pick questionable for everybody and when they start, I'll get the points. Like that's not helpful to anybody. Yeah, Mike, you made me extremely conscious of using fundamentally. Like whoever it was, it made me think of how I looked on stream. And I don't think I say it that often. I need someone to call me out every time I say I'm trying to get rid of that too, and it's just not working. Tom said, I don't think people use the questionable tag because it's not an optimal way to make predictions and keep yourself at the top of the leaderboards. I think you're right, though. But also, people want to know. Like, people don't want to know if somebody's questionable. They want to know if they're going to play or not. So take a stand. If you're projecting it, is this guy going to play? And if the answer is like, I don't know, don't project that player. That's okay too. Blue Tomato said, I like the idea of an anonymous chat with up and down votes. Yeah, I think a chat's interesting because it does give people the ability to just ask, hey, why is this guy out? Yeah. Charlie said, I think the whole points thing and leaderboard is the issue. People feel like they have to lean one way or the other. If there was no prize, people would just predict based on knowledge and not try to win. So a lot of people wouldn't participate if there were no prizes. And again, we're trying to get as many people to participate as possible and then emphasize those who are right more often. Peter said it would be helpful if questionable was just an additional button instead of it being one of the 4 so that they can click start and questionable. Isn't everyone really questionable to start though, Peter? I don't think there's a perfect solution to this. I don't think Play Sharper was perfect. I don't think SorareData is perfect. I think we're getting closer though. And we're never going to get to perfect, but I think a chat option would be good. I don't love the way that we like I get why we do this, and like people can see how much they like where players have played like how they played previously. I don't know if you guys can see that, but like so like you can see what they did in the last 5 games, and you can see the current ones. But like so far, 8 people have said that Lucas Hernandez. Well, he's not a good. Wait, let me. I guess nothing's really that questionable here. But this is for the midweek already. So we have 7 people who said Beraldo will start for PSG. 2 who say, but again, nothing's like reliable at this point. But I don't know. Info says, where can we find the rules for being rewarded for giving predictions? Everything's on our Medium. And I think there's a link to that literally on the SorareData homepage. Yep. So if you just go to the homepage here in the latest news, projected lineup competition updates, there's a whole thing of like how we reward for what we do. And then there are links there to that, literally how like we score everyone. Mike said you can never be perfect when the final game of a game week can be 4 days away. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm not saying we know that we can do better. And so we're trying to do better. But a lot of the suggestions aren't reasonable for us as a company. Like that's what we are. Tuggy said, do you see SorareData giving an option for people to leave comments about why they made their decision if they have shown to be reliable predictions? Oh, like the top projectors? I see what you're saying. The problem is like maybe they don't want to do that. Philly Dilly said, just scrolled through the Prem guys less than 100% and didn't see a single questionable checked. Where did you look at that, Philly Dilly? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm guessing nobody did it. I do think that we don't use the, we don't, so we don't encourage people to use questionable tags. Like we want people to say whether they think someone will start or not. And if they don't know, if they really don't know, they should like not submit it. I actually think that's better. Like, does it make it any better if we said you should only submit projections on people you are fully sure are going to start, and so everyone else is just questionable? I think the other difficulty with, and the way that Play Sharper did it, but it'll happen everywhere, is that like one guy's 70% could be another guy's 80%. And like, where does that go, basically. Brad Craig, maybe we need a Thursday start or sit SorareData show with live crowdsourced discussions. You've got plenty of time in your schedule to do one more show, right? So it's actually less, like, I think that would be fine, but also the there are just too many leagues. Stylish said the Hernandez prediction shows the flaws of checking so early because it came out that he's injured and going to miss the Euros. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's a really good point. That there are also people who submit moving forward. Like who did I just submit one for last? It was like a minute ago. It was for next weekend, right? Oh, the Burnley ones, right? Like that's like a week and a half out, or a week out. Yeah. Pick score hovering for 473. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would. So Philly Do is saying the week 473 pick scores. Go to the Prem. And basically we're saying that, like, oh, sorry, this is midweek. So yeah. I wonder if we should actually show. So like here, sorry, if you guys can't see that, let me try to. So like we are saying with 100% certainty, based on, I'm guessing, the top 10 Chelsea projectors, that Cole Palmer will start this week. We do show 84 predictions, which probably, like, because we're not actually using 84 for that 100%, if that makes sense. So like, who's the first, like, what's wrong with Bruno? He's got a knock, but everyone says he'll play. I mean, we're not going to see somebody with a high pick score if they're less than 100% is the problem at this point. Here we go. Danilo, 89%. I don't know anything about Danilo, so I don't want to speak like I know what's going on, but like that's that. Sora Info is going through the leagues. The rewards are based on league, not club. But I think our expert choice by the end of the week is based on club. Yeah, I don't think we're going to find one here. But I get what you're saying, is that you guys don't feel like players who are truly questionable are represented as such. All right, we'll I don't know what the solution is to that, because again, we really want to emphasize finding out if you think somebody's going to start. And it's okay if you just don't know, but it's really just not helpful when you're like, yeah, he's 50-50. Like, okay. And everyone's like, no, I want to know that he's 50-50, which I guess that's fine. Kennedy said, I actually started an Excel spreadsheet of the Play Sharper experts, or people who report on teams specific to my gallery. It's just too hard to sift through information regarding so many players each week. Yeah, that's why it's this central location was so helpful. Which again, we were trying to do that anyway, to like improve the way that our projections look and are calculated. But what we should do is just see how accurate we are. So maybe I'll work with Vita on that. And by work with him on that, I mean, ask him nicely to do that work for me. And then I will present it to everybody and take full credit for it. Because that's kind of how things work here. Lots of other people do the work and I get to talk about it. But I also wonder, when we present it, how often, or like, all DNPs are not created the same. And so being wrong on a player like Messi is a lot worse than being wrong on someone like just, I guess, literally anyone else. Nathaniel Klein is the one who popped up here. So like being wrong on Nathaniel Klein, everyone's like, oh yeah, well, whatever. Being wrong on Messi is a big deal. And so, yeah, there's that. But yeah, so basically, wow, hour and 25 minutes. I had no idea we were going this long. Obviously, this is a very popular topic, and it's going to be popular at SorareData. Like we're working on it. But from what I gathered from everyone, and I apologize if I kind of missed one. But basically, what you guys want is some sort of commenting system, allowing people to either ask questions or not, or explain why a lineup is the same way. The possibility to see a specific person's projections, which I don't know what we're going to do about that, to be honest. That actually reminded me of something else. What was I just about to say? So one of the things that I think people really don't understand, which is there's really no reason you should understand it, but like one of the suggestions we had was I just want a specific expert's picks when I go into the lineup builder. So instead of using the community projection for a certain team, I want like somebody else. So like if I have a couple Burnley cards, and it's like I actually don't care what the whole community thinks about Burnley. I just want to know what Adam says about Burnley. And so when I'm in the lineup builder, just show me Adam's projections. I think technically it's impossible. Obviously, nothing is actually impossible, but think of like how many people you would have to show of, okay, when this player is in my gallery, then use this projector. But if it's another card, then I use this person. And then think of how many cards you have from different teams or different leagues, and how many users there are who are doing the same thing. And it just doesn't work. So please don't think that that's going to work. That's all. Stuff like that. It's just technically like technically complicated enough that it's not even worth looking into. And Adam's saying you're better off filtering to see everyone's butt mine, which is even harder technically, to be honest. So there's that. And Sam just got here. Come on, Sam. Got a lot to catch up on. Charlie said having the option to see two predictions, the communities and the experts, would be ideal, best of both worlds. So again, like I'm guessing that you have more cards in your gallery than like what one expert is going to do. So now you need an expert for every single card you have, or every single team represented in your gallery, excuse me. Like it's not that simple at all. And Charlie, this whole like seeing the community and the experts, by the end of the week, what we show is the experts. Like that's what we show by the end of the game, or before the deadline. And I don't think showing everybody's and the experts, like why would you show one that presumably is worse? Because we're taking the ones from the best community projectors. Yeah. It's a great idea to be able to match a card with an expert in the lineup build. There are a lot of great ideas that it's not doable. When you think of the thousands of people who use the lineup builder, and now you have to individually match every single card in every single person's gallery to the expert that they happen to be following. Or if you're just like, I don't even want to follow that guy, I want to follow the third place guy. Well, it's like, all right. Like that, none of that is easy. And it's also so difficult that it's not even worth trying, because we have so many other things to work on that idea is just, it's gone. It's not happening. Yeah. Jorge said, imagine you have a 90% correct predictions. I could choose just to see your projections on SorareData. Is that possible in the future? I think it's possible that you can see. So not my fear, but one of the issues that somebody brought up earlier was the thought that people were going to going to Play Sharper and then copying those and putting them into SorareData. Like, isn't that what would happen if we showed the experts on SorareData? People were just like, oh, this guy's always right, let me just copy them. Philly Dilly said, it sounds like SorareData shouldn't be showing projected lineups until the experts weigh in. Play Sharper was frustrating that you had to wait until the expert weighed in, but you felt more confident. We've thought about it, and to be honest, we had more people ask for them early than to hold them out. But also it plays into the pick score, which I think people will then complain about that. They were like, well, if you have an inaccurate line of projection in the pick score, then the pick score is not as accurate. And again, like, the pick scores are most accurate towards the end of, or just before the deadline. Yeah, tooltip might be good, Blue Tomatoes. I think, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it sounds like SorareData is doing the best it can currently, but always looking to improve, which is what we as customers should be happy with. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing. Philly Dilly said, don't worry about the pick scores, Andrew. We haven't even started bitching about that yet. I'm not talking about pick scores today. We should have that conversation, but it's not happening today. But I think a lot of the solutions that people think that they're coming up with are actually part of our process already. And so it's really my job to make sure that people understand that. And so I'll get to work on that, everyone. And we'll try to work on making the process a little clearer, or a lot clearer, and to show why our projections are actually much better than people think they are. Yeah. All right. That's enough. I knew people would be very excited about this topic, and I'm glad we could have this conversation about it. If you guys could please like the video, that's really helpful, because maybe more people watch it and more people could figure out or find out kind of what we do and where we're trying to improve. Like, there's not a single tool on SorareData that we don't think can be improved. And this is, like, line of projections is a big one. We know that. And we know what people want, and we're going to try to do it as much as we can. So, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Everyone in the chat was great. If you're watching this within 24 hours of us going live, you might not be able to see the live chat, but it'll come up soon. And I think all of the shows are better when you can see the chat, but I particularly think this one is the best because I rely on the chat so much. So, but yeah, thank you to everybody. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Good luck to everyone this game week. It's the first one with the new promotion and relegation rules and all the highly changed prize pools that look very similar to the ones that previously existed. But anyway, we'll compete. Hopefully some of us will compete, and we'll celebrate next week. So thanks, and enjoy your weekend.